guys, to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're making pie. This is a savory pie that's going to be filled with butternut squash, feta, herbs. It's so flavorful. It just screams fall, and it's perfect if you're thinking about something to make for your Thanksgiving table, which before you know it, it'll be here. My favorite time of the year is this season right here. I just love it. Anyway, it's so flavorful, so easy to make. I'm going to teach you how to make it in two ways. My favorite way, which is like a spiral because it's just so pretty to look at and not that hard to make. And then I'm going to show you a simpler version. It's almost going to look like a strudel. We give you options here. Let's get started. Okay, so I have 2 pounds of butternut squash that I bought already chopped and peeled and everything and de-seeded from the supermarket. It really does save time if you do that. It's going to be more expensive, a little bit more expensive, but it's up to you. What do you want to save? You want to save a little bit of money, or do you want to save a little bit of time? I find that if I have it chopped up and ready to go in my refrigerator, then it doesn't get wasted. Many times I buy vegetables such as butternut squash and they sit on the counter for weeks. But if I see it in my refrigerator, then I hurry up to use it so that it doesn't go bad, because once you peel it and it's ready to go, it can go bad if you don't use it. So I don't know, it's worth the few extra dollars that it costs to buy it ready-made. Anyway, I put it on a baking tray, and then I'm just gonna drizzle it with some olive oil, sprinkle some salt and pepper on top, toss it all together. My oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to go in there and bake on the center rack for about 20 minutes or until it's fork tender. That's all you have to do. And in the meantime, I have an onion that I've finely chopped. I'm just going to add some olive oil. I have it in this pan over here, about 1/4 cup of olive oil and a little pinch of salt. I'm going to cook this over medium heat until it's nice and soft and golden. Okay, once the onions are nice and soft, it takes about 5-6 minutes. You can go ahead and add 5 or 6 thinly sliced scallions. I like to soak them in water, and then once they're finely sliced, and then I like to lift them out and put them in a little strainer and then add them to the onions. And then they just need about 2 minutes or so just to soften up just a little bit. And this is what everything looks once it's done. The butternut squash is out of the oven and it hasn't cooled down yet, just a little bit actually. I'm just gonna add it carefully to the onion mixture. Now I'm just gonna season it with a little pinch of crushed red pepper flakes. Butternut squash and crushed red pepper flakes go really well together. It has a little slight nuttiness and a little bit of a sweetness to it. And the kick from the chili flakes just is really nice. It kind of wakes it up. Then I'm going to add about a teaspoon of thyme. This is dried thyme. You can use oregano or even rosemary if you prefer. Sage is nice too. If you want to chop up some sage, you're going to get all those fall flavors in here. Then I have 1/2 pound of feta cheese. That's about 240 grams or so. I've said it before, but if you're new here, don't ever buy the already crumbled feta. It's briny, it's bad quality, and doesn't taste good either. You can just take 2 seconds to crumble it yourself. And before I mix everything up, I have some fresh parsley soaking in water over here just to kind of clean it up. I'm just gonna finely chop that. If you want to, you can put a little squeeze of orange juice in here, maybe like the juice of half an orange, and some orange zest, not zent. And then just mix everything up. And be gentle with it because you don't want the butternut squash to kind of mush up in here. You want it to hold its shape. And then this is where you want to give it a little taste. This right here makes a delicious side, even if you don't want to put it in phyllo. It's so good. I do want a little bit more salt in here, just a tiny bit. If everything is seasoned well, it has lots of flavor. And some black pepper. And that's it. The filling part is ready. So I have 4 ounces of melted butter. That is 113 grams. This is salted butter. I like to use salted butter because it has more flavor, especially for savory dishes. And because I melted this in the microwave, I just like to put the parchment wrapper on top so that way it doesn't make a mess in the microwave. And then I just use the same wrapper to brush the inside of my tin. Now I'm using 9.5, this is 9.5 or 10 inches, both work. This is a springform pan. Basically it comes apart. This is the pan that's used for cheesecakes. If you don't have one, you could still make this. You don't need one. You can definitely use a baking tray and just form the spirals. This kind of helps them hold their shape. That's why I like it. I like to put the springform pan onto a baking pan because it catches any grease or oil or juices that are going to come out while it's baking. So that way you don't make a mess in the oven. And I'm going to show you two ways. We're going to do the spirals first. And spirals, anytime you make a pie and you make it into like these little spirals, it always elevates it, makes it look more fancy, makes it look like you spend so much time making it, but it's actually really easy. This is a ½ pound of Phyllo. Now this company that makes this brand actually packages it, makes 2 packages, 2 ½ pound packages. So this is how it's already packed. Otherwise, you can just use the regular sheets, the big sheets. Those will work too. We're going to take 1 sheet at a time. And if you can get country Phyllo, which is thicker Phyllo, it's going to be even better for this. So they're going to be a little bit hardier and crisper. So I'm going to drizzle each sheet, and I'm going to layer 2 sheets on top of each other with butter, the melted butter. If you prefer to use olive oil, you can go ahead and use olive oil instead of the butter. I just feel like butter adds more flavor. Then I'm going to add some of the mixture, the butternut squash filling right here on the bottom. You want to make sure you go all the way across. And then very carefully roll it up. If it starts to crack on you, don't worry, it'll be fine, it'll work out. Here's 1 roll. And you keep making these until they line the inside of the pan. You're gonna have some left over. So you can make more spirals once you're done and just put them on a baking tray, or you can make the little strudel that we're gonna make after this. You can do this in so many ways. If you wanna make little triangles, just like we do for spanakopita or tiropita, you can do that as well. And would you look at that? I forgot to add another layer. So it happens. Let's see how we're gonna do this without ripping it. Do as I say, not as I do, you guys. Phyllo is so much more forgiving than you think. Here it is, a big old mess, but we're gonna roll it up and you'll never know that this happened. Okay, as I was saying, you can make little triangles, you can make big triangles. If you want to just lay this out in a 9 by 13 inch baking dish and make a big pie, that is an option too. It's easier, it's a little bit less work, but trust me when I tell you, when you see what this looks like in the end, you'll see why it's worth it. It's really not that much work, and look at me, I did the same thing again. Talk about not learning from her mistakes, that's me. I'm gonna roll it up first, and then put it on this one right here, and we'll roll up again. Solutions. Okay, so now you're gonna take each one of these rolls that you made, and you're just gonna line the inside of the baking pan that's been buttered up. And where they meet, you can break it and pull it apart so that way you can make the spirals a little bit smaller. And then I'm just gonna brush it with melted butter. And that's it, the spiral is ready. If you want to, you can sprinkle the top with some sesame seeds. Now, since we still have Phyllo sheets and leftover filling, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to make another little version of this, an easy version. So I have a small baking tray over here, and I'm gonna layer the Phyllo on here, but before I do that, I'm gonna separate all the Phyllo that I have into 2 batches. Now, you can definitely make spirals and just continue the pattern like we did and just form it into a little circle right here on the baking tray. But here I'm here to give you options and to make life a little bit easier if that's what you're looking for, a little shortcut. We're gonna layer each one of the sheets and drizzle with butter, of course, because butter adds flavor, and it also keeps them nice and crisp. Okay, and now we're gonna take all of this remaining filling and we're just gonna put it in the center. And then I like to sort of fold the edges over to hold the filling inside in place. And then brush those with lots of butter, just like that. And then the remaining layers that are gonna go on top, we're gonna just put them on top, and we're gonna drizzle each one with melted butter. And I'm just gonna tuck these edges under just like so. Now, if you don't have phyllo, but you do have puff pastry in your freezer, you can make this with puff pastry too. I don't think it'll be as good as this. It just depends. I'm a bigger fan of phyllo than I am of puff pastry, so it's up to you. If you're using the puff pastry, skip the whole buttering technique. And then, just so we can get some airflow going, so all the steam can escape, I'm just going to cut some slits on top. And if you want to sprinkle the top with some sesame seeds, go ahead, be my guest. Both of them are almost ready. I'm going to poke this just a few times, just so that way some of the steam could escape while this is baking. My oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. It's still at 400. When I took out the butternut squash, I just left it running. I'm going to put these in the oven in the middle rack, and I'm going to let them bake until they're beautifully golden. The spirals are probably going to take about 45 minutes, and this pita over here will probably take about 30 minutes, but look for the color, look for the crispiness, take them when they come out. Let them cool a little bit, and I'll show you what they look like when they're ready. The pies are ready. They're nice and toasted. Let me let you hear what they sound like. You hear that? If it doesn't sound like that, you need to pop it back in the oven until it gets nice and crisp again. Keep in mind that once it sits, phyllo does tend to soften a little bit. That's why if you have the country style phyllo in your freezer, or if it's easy for you to get some, use that because it stays crispier and heartier, and it's just going to be better for this recipe. Otherwise, it'll be fine. It's still going to be delicious. These freeze beautifully, so if you're not making all of it, if you're not serving all of it the same day, you can take one of them and put them in the freezer. Once it freezes solid, either wrap it in plastic wrap or transfer it to a freezer-safe bag or container, and then take it out when you're ready to serve it. Bake it in the oven just the same way until it's nice and golden and crisp all around. Serve this with a nice arugula salad, with a nice honey balsamic vinaigrette. That goes really well with this. Of course, some tzatziki goes good too. And that's it. Now it's time for the taste test. It tastes like Thanksgiving. Like Thanksgiving, fall, in every bite. The butternut squash melts in your mouth. It's slightly nutty. The feta cheese adds so much flavor, as we all know. It's creamy, briny, salty, delicious. The herbs are just the perfect combination. I love the thyme in there. If you have it, make sure you use it because it goes well together. The flaky, buttery phyllo is like the cherry on top. I hope you guys give this one a try. If you want to learn how to make my spanakopita, which is my spinach pie, if you haven't tried that yet, it's one of my most popular recipes, then click over here and I'll see you right over there. If you want the exact measurements for this, they're on the website, dimitrazdishes.com. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, yes.